There are times in life when we reflect on the years that have passed, and our hearts ache as we think about the time we believe has been wasted. We contemplate missed opportunities, broken relationships, poor decisions, and seasons of stagnation. But let me remind you that there is no wasted time in God's economy. He is a God who restores, a God who redeems, and when He begins to move in your life to restore those lost years, there are unmistakable signs that His hand is at work. First, you will notice a stirring in your spirit, a divine dissatisfaction with where you are. This is not the discontentment of the flesh, but a holy unrest placed by God to prepare you for something greater. He begins to revive dreams and visions you thought had long died. He breathes new life into your spirit, and suddenly you find yourself yearning for the purposes He has for you. It is the first sign that God is about to make all things new in your life. You might also see doors opening where they once were firmly shut. The opportunities that once seemed impossible begin to align in ways you could never orchestrate. People you never expected to meet, resources you never imagined you'd have access to, and paths you never dreamed of walking become part of your reality. These are not mere coincidences. They are the fingerprints of God making a way where there seemed to be no way. Another sign is the peace that surpasses all understanding. Even in the midst of chaos, the world around you may still look the same, but inside you know something has shifted. This peace is not dependent on your circumstances. It comes from knowing that God is in control and that His plans for you are good. It is a peace that allows you to trust His timing and methods, even when you can't see the whole picture. As God prepares to restore what was lost, He will also work within you, refining your character. He may lead you through seasons of pruning, where old habits, toxic relationships, and unhealthy mindsets are stripped away. It may be painful, but it is necessary. God is not just restoring your wasted years. He is preparing you to steward the blessings He is about to pour into your life. He is shaping you into the person He created you to be. Someone who can walk in the fullness of His promises. You may also find that your faith grows in ways you never thought possible. God allows you to see glimpses of His faithfulness, and with each glimpse, your trust in Him deepens. You begin to understand that His timing is perfect and that His ways are higher than yours. This growing faith is not just for you. It becomes a testimony to others, a light in the darkness, pointing them to the hope and restoration that can only be found in Him. Lastly, you will see that the pain of your past is transformed into a source of strength and purpose. The very things that once caused you the most heartache become the foundation for your greatest testimony. God does not waste anything. Not your tears, not your struggles, not your mistakes. He uses them all to bring glory to His name and to bring hope to others. When you see this transformation taking place, it is a clear sign that God is restoring your wasted years. So if you find yourself in a season of waiting, do not despair. God is faithful, and He is at work even when you cannot see it. He is the God of restoration, the God who redeems what the locusts have eaten, the God who makes all things new. Trust in Him and know that He is preparing to restore all your wasted years for His glory and your good. When God begins His work of restoration, it often feels like a shift in the atmosphere, a change you can't fully explain, but one you can sense deep in your soul. You may find yourself drawn closer to Him than ever before. The things that once distracted you lose their appeal. The voices of the world grow quieter, and the voice of God becomes clearer. It's as if He is calling you into a sacred space, preparing you for what's to come. This drawing nearer is not something you initiate. It's His Spirit working within you, pulling you toward His heart. During this time, you may experience moments of divine confirmation. It could come through scripture, a sermon, or even a word from a friend that speaks directly to your situation. These moments are not random. They are God's way of assuring you that He sees you, He hears you, and He is working on your behalf. He reminds you of His promises and gives you glimpses of the future He has prepared for you. These confirmations strengthen your resolve to keep trusting Him even when the path ahead is unclear. You might also notice that the weight of guilt and regret begins to lift. For years, you may have carried the burden of your past, feeling as though your mistakes had disqualified you from God's best. But when He starts the work of restoration, He also brings healing. He whispers to your heart that His grace is sufficient that His mercy is new every morning, and that nothing you've done can separate you from His love. This freedom from guilt is a powerful sign that God is not only restoring your circumstances, but also your soul. As you journey through this process, you may encounter moments when everything seems to be falling apart. But don't be discouraged. Sometimes things have to break before they can be rebuilt. God may allow certain relationships, plans, or dreams to fall away because they are not part of His restoration. It's in these moments that your faith is tested. Will you trust Him enough to let go of what you think you need so He can give you what He knows is best? These seasons of breaking are not punishments. They are preparations for the restoration to come. Another undeniable sign of God's restoration is the renewal of joy after seasons of heartache and loss. Joy can feel like a distant memory, something you're not sure you'll ever experience again. But when God begins to restore, He also restores your joy. This joy is not dependent on your circumstances. It comes from knowing you are loved, that you are seen, and that God is working all things together for your good. It's a joy that gives you strength, a joy that sustains you through the waiting, and a joy that becomes a testimony to those around you. You may also find that God begins to place people in your life who align with His plans for you. These divine connections are not accidental. They are part of His orchestration. They may come as mentors, friends, or partners who encourage you, challenge you, and help you grow. They speak life into your dreams and remind you of God's promises when you feel discouraged. These relationships are a sign that God is aligning your path with His purpose. In the process of restoration, you will notice that your perspective begins to change. What once seemed like wasted years now looks like a season of preparation. You begin to see God's hand in the details, even in moments that felt like failure. He gives you new eyes to see your past not as a series of mistakes, but as a tapestry of His grace. This shift in perspective is a powerful reminder that God's ways are higher than ours, and that He can use even our lowest moments for His glory. God's restoration often comes with a renewed sense of purpose. You may have spent years feeling aimless, unsure of your calling or direction, but as He restores you, He begins to reveal the plans He has for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. This renewed purpose fills you with a sense of anticipation and excitement for what's to come. It's a sign that God has not finished with you yet, and that the best is still ahead. As you walk through this season, you may notice that your prayers begin to change. They become less about asking for specific outcomes and more about seeking God's will. You find yourself praying for wisdom, patience, and alignment with His purposes. This shift in prayer is a sign of spiritual maturity, a recognition that God's plans are far greater than anything you could imagine. Another remarkable sign of restoration is the testimony that begins to emerge from your life. The very areas where you experience the most pain and loss become the areas where God's glory shines the brightest. Your story becomes a beacon of hope for others, a reminder that God is a God of redemption. People are drawn to your testimony, not because of your strength, but because of His. They see what He has done in your life and are encouraged to trust Him with their own. As you continue to trust in God's restoration, you may find that He begins to redeem not only your past, but also your relationships. Broken connections are mended and estranged loved ones are brought back into your life. These moments of reconciliation are a testament to God's ability to heal even the deepest wounds. They remind you that no relationship is beyond His reach, and that His desire is for unity and love. Through this process, you will notice a deepening of your faith. The trials you've endured and the lessons you've learned become the foundation for a stronger, more resilient trust in God. You begin to see Him not just as a God of restoration, but as a God who walks with you through every season. This faith becomes your anchor, keeping you steady even when the storms of life rage around you. God's restoration is not limited to one area of your life, guided by a divine hand, leading you exactly where you need to be at just the right time. It becomes clear that everything you've gone through has been preparing you for the fullness of God's plan for your life. This sense of alignment helps you recognize that while your journey may not have been smooth, It was always under the careful direction of the one who created you. As you move forward, you will see that the seemingly insignificant events were all part of His intricate design, woven together with a purpose that brings glory to His name. When God restores your wasted years, it is not simply a return to what was lost. It is a complete renewal of every area of your life. Relationships that seemed broken beyond repair are healed, and your heart, once burdened with sorrow, finds peace and joy. In this process, you will also notice a shift in your perspective. What once seemed impossible or hopeless now appears as an opportunity for growth and transformation. The obstacles that once stood in your way are now stepping stones, leading you to a place of deeper understanding and greater fulfillment. As you walk in the restoration that God is bringing to your life, you will begin to see the beauty in the waiting. The seasons of silence, the years of longing, and the periods of doubt are all part of the process. These are not wasted moments, but times of preparation, molding you into the person God has called you to be. It is in the waiting that you learn to trust Him fully, knowing that His timing is perfect and that His plans for you are always for your good. In the midst of this restoration, you will also experience a renewed sense of purpose. The things that once seemed important will now fade into the background as your focus shifts toward the eternal. You will find yourself more passionate about serving others, building relationships, and fulfilling the unique calling that God has placed on your life. The pursuits that once defined you are now aligned with His will, and you begin to see how every experience, every challenge, and every triumph has led you to this moment of clarity and purpose. God's restoration process also brings about a deep sense of gratitude. As you reflect on all that He has done, you cannot help but marvel at His goodness. What once felt like a hopeless situation now shines with the evidence of His grace and faithfulness. You begin to realize that the journey was never about the destination, but about the person you became along the way. The restoration of your wasted years has shaped you into someone who is stronger, wiser, and more aware of the depth of God's love for you. As you continue on this journey of restoration, there will be moments where you find yourself overwhelmed by the goodness of God. His blessings will come in ways you never anticipated, often at times when you least expect them. These blessings are not just for your benefit, but also for the benefit of others. They serve as a testimony to the world of the power of God's restoration and the transformative work He is doing in your life. The restoration of your wasted years is not just a personal journey. It is a journey that will impact those around you. As you share your story of God's faithfulness, others will be encouraged to trust in Him with their own lives. They will see that if God can restore you, He can restore them too. Your testimony becomes a beacon of hope, shining brightly in a world that desperately needs to see the power of God's love and restoration. In this season of restoration, you will also discover a deeper intimacy with God. You will learn to recognize His voice more clearly, to trust His leading with confidence, and to surrender fully to His plans for your life. This relationship with God is the greatest gift of all, for it is through Him that all other blessings flow. As you walk closely with Him, you will experience a peace that surpasses all understanding, a joy that cannot be contained, and a hope that anchors your soul in the midst of any storm. Through it all, you will come to understand that God's restoration is not just about what He gives you, it is about who He is. He is a loving Father who delights in restoring His children, a faithful God who keeps His promises, and a compassionate Savior who never gives up on you. His restoration is a reflection of His heart, His love for you, and His desire to see you walk in the fullness of His blessings. As you reflect on the journey that has brought you to this point, you will recognize that every challenge, every setback, and every moment of doubt was part of God's perfect plan for your life. He has been with you every step of the way, guiding you, refining you, and preparing you for the future He has in store. As you walk in the fullness of His restoration, you will see the beauty in every season and the goodness of God in every moment. The restoration of your wasted years is not just a one-time event. It is a continual process that will shape you for the rest of your life. As you move forward, you will experience even greater levels of peace, joy, and fulfillment. Your life will become a testimony to the faithfulness of God and the power of His restoration. You will find that the best is yet to come, and that God is not finished with you yet. He is still working, still restoring, and still bringing beauty from the ashes. In the end, when you look back on your journey, you will see the hand of God in every detail. You will recognize that He has been working all along, turning your brokenness into something beautiful. His restoration is not just about what He gives you, but about who He is making you to be. You will stand in awe of His goodness, faithfulness, and love, knowing that He is the God who restores all things. Being instructed by the Lord, He is guiding you into places you never thought you'd reach, opening doors that no one can close. As God restores your lost years, He also strengthens your faith. The journey of restoration often entails stepping into the unknown, trusting Him with every detail, even when the path isn't clearly visible. This requires a faith that stretches you, but it also shapes you. You start learning to rely on His promises, to take Him at His word, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. Faithfulness time and time again, your faith becomes unshakable. It becomes the very foundation that holds you steady in the day-to-day life. The anger of the storm, the chaos, the fear, the grief, this is your home. You brought God's presence in your day-to-day life. You begin to see His touch in everything. The people you meet, the conversations you have, the opportunities that come your way. This awareness brings a peace and joy that goes beyond mere circumstances. You recognize that God is not only restoring your past, but is walking beside you at every step. His presence becomes your greatest treasure, your source of strength, and the reason for your hope. God's restoration often brings a renewed sense of gratitude. As you reflect on all He's done, you can't help but be overwhelmed by His goodness, the blessings, breakthroughs, and moments of grace. They all point to a God who loves you more than you can comprehend. This gratitude shifts your perspective, helping you see even life's challenges as opportunities for growth and refinement. It turns your focus from what you've lost to what you've gained, from the pain of the past to the promise of the future. During this process, you may also discover that your capacity to love others expands. As you experience God's unconditional love and forgiveness, you feel compelled to offer the same love to those around you. This love isn't conditional on what others can do for you. It's rooted in the understanding that you have been loved and forgiven immensely. It's a love that seeks to serve, uplift, and bring hope to those who are hurting. In loving others, you reflect God's heart, becoming a vessel of His grace and mercy. In this journey of restoration, God often reveals the purpose behind your suffering. The trials you've endured, the tears you've shed, the battles you've fought, everything has prepared you for the calling God has placed on your life. The experiences that once seemed like wasted years now serve as the foundation for your testimony, the story God will use to encourage and inspire others. You realize that nothing has been wasted, not a single moment, not a single tear. Everything has been woven together for your good and His glory. God's restoration also brings a deep sense of joy that can't be shaken. This joy isn't dependent on your circumstances. It comes from knowing you are right where God wants you to be. It's a joy that sustains you through life's ups and downs, a joy that assures you that God is for you and nothing can separate you from His love. This joy becomes your strength, empowering you to face each day with confidence and hope. As you walk through this process, you begin to see the fruit of God's restoration in every part of your life. Your relationships become healthier, your purpose clearer, and your faith stronger. You are no longer defined by your past. You are defined by who you are in Christ. This transformation isn't just for you. It's a testimony to the world of what God can do. People who witness your life are drawn to the God who restores, to the God who makes all things new. The journey of restoration is not always easy, but it is always worth it. There will be times of challenge, moments when you have to trust God even when you don't understand what He's doing. But in those moments, you will discover that His grace is sufficient. He gives you the strength to keep moving forward, the courage to keep believing, and the faith to keep trusting. And when you look back on this journey, you will see His faithfulness in every step, His goodness in every detail. Through this process, God teaches you to depend on Him in ways you never have before. You learn to seek Him first, to prioritize your relationship with Him above all else. This dependence is not a sign of weakness. It's a recognition of your need for His guidance and provision. It's an acknowledgement that apart from Him you can do nothing. And in this dependence you find a freedom and peace that you've never known before. As God restores your lost years, He also redeems your story. The parts of your life that once brought shame or regret now stand as a testimony of His grace. The mistakes you made, the wrong turns you took, the years you spent far from Him, all of it is transformed into a story of His love and redemption. Your life becomes a beacon of hope for others, a reminder that no one is beyond the reach of God's grace. In this season, you may find yourself reflecting on God's faithfulness in ways you never have before. The times when you thought He was silent, the moments when you felt abandoned, those were the moments when He was working behind the scenes, preparing you for what was coming. His faithfulness isn't always visible in the moment, but as you look back, you can see His hand in every detail. This realization deepens your trust in Him, giving you the confidence to face whatever is ahead. God's restoration isn't just about what He gives you, it's about who He is. He is a God of compassion, mercy, and love, a God who delights in bringing His children into the fullness of His blessings. His restoration is a reflection of His love for you, a demonstration of His commitment to never leave you or forsake you. It is a reminder that you are deeply valued, that your life matters, and that He has a plan for you far beyond anything you could imagine. This restoration process isn't merely a return to what once was. It's a transformation into something new. God takes the broken pieces of your life and creates something beautiful, something that reflects His glory. He doesn't just fill the empty spaces, He overflows them with His blessings. This transformation is a testament to His power, a reminder that with Him nothing is impossible. Through all of this, you come to realize that God's restoration isn't just about reclaiming lost years. It's about stepping into the abundant life He has promised. It's about walking in the fullness of His grace, experiencing the depth of His love, and fulfilling the purpose He has for you. It's about knowing that you are not defined by your past, but by the God who is making all things new. And as you continue this journey, you will witness His faithfulness in ways that leave you in awe, reminding you that He truly is the God who restores all things. This restoration journey is deeply personal, tailored uniquely to the life God has given you. It unfolds in ways that may surprise you, ways that defy human logic and expectations. You begin to see His hand, orchestrating events that seemed unrelated, weaving them together into a tapestry of purpose and meaning. What once felt random now becomes clear. God's plans for you aren't hindered by your mistakes or the actions of others. Instead, He uses even those moments to bring about His perfect will. The restoration process often requires a shift in perspective. It asks you to see beyond the natural and into the spiritual, to trust that God is working even when the evidence is scarce. This is where faith becomes essential. Faith enables you to stand firm when doubts arise, to hold on to hope when circumstances seem hopeless. It's in these moments of faith that you draw nearer to God, not just for what He can give, but for who He is. As time passes, you may notice that the restoration doesn't stop at what you've lost. It extends beyond that. God doesn't merely return what was taken, He multiplies it. The relationships that were once broken are now mended and strengthened. The opportunities that seemed forever gone are replaced with even greater possibilities. The joy and peace you now experience surpass everything you've known before. This abundance doesn't come from anything you've earned. It's because of who God is. His nature is to bless, restore, and redeem. Through this season, your ability to trust grows. Trust in God becomes the anchor that keeps you steady when storms arise. You realize that restoration isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about moving forward with God's guidance, learning to walk in step with His Spirit. This trust enables you to release control, to surrender your plans, and to embrace His. And in doing so, you find freedom. Freedom from fear, from striving, from the burden of trying to make things happen on your own. God's restoration also brings profound healing. The wounds of your past, the scars you've carried, begin to fade as God's love fills the emptiness in your heart. His healing isn't always instant, but it's thorough. It reaches the deepest parts of you, addressing not just the symptoms, but the root causes of your pain. No longer do you hold on to bitterness or resentment. You've encountered a love that sets you free, and this freedom transforms the way you live. As you approach each day, you do so with a sense of purpose and anticipation, knowing that God is at work. Challenges become opportunities for growth. Setbacks become setups for something greater. The fear that once held you back is replaced by boldness, a confidence that comes from knowing you are walking in God's will. Restoration also brings a renewed sense of community. God places people in your life who encourage you, who walk beside you on this journey of faith. These relationships become a source of strength, a reminder that you are never alone. You find joy in serving others and blessing those around you. This sense of community reflects God's heart for His people and reminds you that restoration isn't just about you. It's about His kingdom. As you continue on this path, you begin to see the beauty in God's timing. What once felt delayed now feels perfectly orchestrated. The waiting was never wasted. It was preparation. In that waiting, God refined your character, strengthened your faith, and positioned you for what's to come. This realization brings a peace that surpasses understanding and a confidence that God's plans are always good. Through it all, you find yourself drawn closer to God's heart. Restoration isn't just about recovering what was lost. It's about discovering who He is. It's about experiencing His love, His grace, and His faithfulness in ways you never thought possible. And as you walk in this restored life, you become a living testimony of His goodness, a reflection of His glory. Every moment, every struggle, and every tear has been worth it because it has brought you to where you are now, a place of renewed hope, abundant joy, and unshakable faith. In conclusion, the restoration God promises is not simply about reclaiming what was lost. It's about stepping into the fullness of His plans for your life. It's a process of renewal, healing, and transformation that reveals His boundless love and faithfulness. Every wasted year, every broken dream, and every moment of despair is met with His power to redeem and restore. As you trust Him, lean into His promises, and walk in obedience, you will witness His hand making all things new. The years the locusts have eaten will not only be returned, but multiplied in ways that exceed your greatest expectations. God's restoration is a testimony to His nature, a reminder that in Him nothing is truly lost, and every season has a purpose. Take heart, remain steadfast in faith, and know that the God who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it.